Alright, there guys, so today I'll be including my 75-gallon saltwater reef tank. Alright, it's mainly LPS, so I don't have to do too much, but I don't like keeping the water too dirty either. We have our fish friends, and I kind of plan on hopefully putting in some SPS. We don't want any dirty water. For our filtration, I do have a Pinplex filtration canister on the bottom. It's rated up to 200 gallons. I don't really think it would, but we'll see how that goes. I also have a Marineland hang on the back filtration system as well. It does have canisters that spins, keeps the water oxygenated, and keeps that good beneficial bacteria built in on that roll as well. So today I'll be doing a 20% water change, give or take a little bit more. I have 17 gallons of salt water already pre-mixed, and for my conditioner I use the Prime Sea Chem. Good product. A little bit goes a long way, so I don't even use a whole cap full when I fill one of these buckets up. Maybe 5 drops in there, so not very much goes into each bucket. It's good for 1 cap full. Let's see real quick. So 1 cap full is good for 50 US gallons, so don't need a cap full. A little bit goes a long way with this product. The other product I use is my Stability. It's also through ChemiClean as well. With this, it is beneficial bacteria in it. It also helps prevent new tank syndrome, so I would recommend this as well. I'm not gonna lie, you're still probably gonna have some of those uglies and nasties show up here and there, but this will help keep it at bay. So kind of like my friends on BRS TV, an ounce of prevention keeps away a pound of cure. So I definitely use that. My next product I use is API. So with this, if you're just going to use a regular salt, so let's say you don't get the stuff that has the calcium and all the good stuff built in, you just get the regular cheap salt, right? This right here, as you can see, complete trace. It does have the minerals that your tank is going to be needing. For my LPS corals, it has done amazing for it.
Okay.
So with these products, I don't add everything into the bucket at one time. The only product that I do, as I said, was that water conditioner through Sea Chem. It's the only one that I use in the bucket before I start dumping everything else. With this, you're going to use 5 mLs per 10 US gallons. You don't need much of this either, so you don't need to dump a whole bunch thinking it's going to cure everything. You don't want too many elements because your corals might not be able to take everything in at one time that it's recommending. Lastly, what I like to use is my marine buffer. So this is just for fish. You can use it with corals. Just be careful with it. It's not really designed for it. So it's a pH balancer. It's going to bring it up to an 8.3. I have seen a lot of people say they add this and within a couple days it goes right back down. I haven't had really any trouble with it. It doesn't really stay at an 8.3, but it doesn't go back down to my water level, which here my water stays around a 7.8. So it's not terribly low, but it's not exactly ideal for our saltwater aquarium that we're wanting. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this. So I use my scraper here. I have a little bit of algae that gets stuck to the glass, and I also have coralline algae. That's this purple all over my tank here. I just take this, I scrape it off. After that, I try to suck it up the best I can. So we're gonna go ahead and start scraping. You don't have to get everything in one day. Again, you don't want to add too much to your tank, because once you scrape it off, you might not be able to suck everything back up. Good filtration systems will help mitigate that, but we're going to scrape off most of the viewing glass the best that we can. Get this algae out of here. Got a couple of snails wanting to stick around, so trying to work around them, not cut them or anything. And funny thing is, the snails that are on the glass right now are actually supposed to be under the sand bed. They're my Nicer snails. Mainly stay under. You'll see them come up as soon as I add food. I haven't added anything food, but having my hand in the water is quite exciting, them and the other fish. And you kind of want to watch out. I used to have clownfish in here that love to bite me. Every time I put my hand in here, he'd bite me. Then I have a watchman goby, and my wife found out the other day that he will bite you too if he gets too excited. So you always kind of want to keep your eye on your fish as well, because some of them do have bigger teeth than what you think they do. Might be tawny, but they can bite. Also have a snowflake eel in here, and his eyesight's not very good, so he likes to bump into my arm and try to bite me as well. As you can see, clownfish, just kind of curious, not really biting me. So these are the false clownfish, false scalaris clownfish. That's why they're not ginormous like your tomato clowns that you might have. Oh, here comes the eel. At this point, I feel like the seagull's off of Finding Nemo. I'm like, hey, hey. Gotta go away from me. So with our display tanks, we want to keep them nice and clean. And it's just one part of the hobby. Kind of get used to. Don't really mind too much of the coralline algae on the back of it. Doesn't really hurt. Keeps a lot of the light from going out the back. If you don't have it painted. So as you can see, some of this is starting to float around. Some of the other bits are going down in the sand bed. And we'll siphon the rest of that out. Once we get most of the front off, we'll scrape off the side a little bit. But like I said earlier, I'm mainly worried about the front. That being the display, the rest of it, not too bad. There's not much green algae growing on the back of here, so mainly the coralline algae. I've got a couple of my hammerhead corals down here. I don't want to get too close to them. I don't want to cut any of their tendrils. And there's that snowflake eel. He's trying. So even with having a good bit of snails in here, not too many, I wouldn't even say I do 2 a gallon, honestly. As you can see, they're not all over the side of my tank. Also removed some of the empty snail shells that I found that the hermit crabs decided they were going to eat. So had to replace those because they don't eat everything in there. Got to get those little batteries out. When I say batteries, not everything can get all the way inside the snail shells. So whatever's not been eaten, just sitting there rotting inside of your tank, causing more problems. As I said earlier, we'll just do an ounce of prevention, so we don't have to use a pound of cure. This is one of the most time-consuming parts of doing everything. It's just really scraping all the everything off of your front. So it gets coated on there. I just use a thin razor blade. You can find them at pretty much any hardware store, Walmart's, anything like that. The straight edge, so you don't need to really buy the expensive products at the pet stores. You can always just use one of these. It does just as good, if not better. So just coming to the side, being mindful of our seal that's right there. Definitely don't want to start scraping that. Get a little bit more problems. So from your angle you can't see it, but I do have a little bit of algae that's growing right through here. Probably start seeing it float around. There it goes. I like to try going different ways, different passes. Then I can kind of get everything from a different angle and assure that we get everything taken care of. You can see I'm not applying too much pressure. Some of these are pretty stubborn, you might have to. Like I said, again, I don't want to get everything all at one go. So if I'm not able to siphon out all of it, I'm going to put myself in a predicament with more filth in the tank and it flowing around and dying in there, and what my filtration or my self-siphon and everything else can be able to take care of. Just looking at it, still a little few spots here and there. You can always go back, spot clean it if you like. Just making sure everything's taken care of, going in a different direction again. As you can see, a lot of it's floating around now. So at this point, I'm going to call it on the scraping. We'll go ahead and start siphoning it out. It is nice to have a hose that connects to your sink. If you don't have that, you just got to do the water in the mouth trick. Sometimes you get lucky and it doesn't go, so it's always a nice thing. So you all probably can't see this right now, but I am picking up all kinds of that waste off of the sand bed that I just scraped off. So whatever's not floating around in the water column went straight to the sand bed, and we're getting that taken care of. You can see in my siphon here. Also picked up a lot of my empty old hermit crab shells so they don't get sucked up in the siphon, because anytime you add new hermit crabs, they might be too big for the shell that the store you got it from or ordered online. So it never hurts to have a couple extra in your tank as long as you know that they're clean. That way you can just go ahead, have those ready, and no hermit crabs are killing each other trying to get a new home. Got a little bit of detritus on my sand here. So not only is it getting the sand bed, it's still getting a lot of the stuff that's floating around in the water column that you can't see. So we have a little bit of sludge down there, so we'll do next. We'll just go ahead and take off that part of the siphon. And sometimes I just have to use a straight hose to get what I want. Now you do lose a little bit of sand, but I'd rather lose some sand than my tank go haywire and I end up with a whole bunch of ugly. Sand's a little bit cheaper than it is trying to nuke a tank. And I think I just sucked up a hermit crab. It's another bad thing when you do this way. You will end up sucking up a couple hermit crabs. You'll have to go back through, check your buckets. Or, that's one good thing about using the buckets, you can always check, make sure you didn't suck up anything you didn't mean to. You always want to keep an eye on your buckets, you don't overflow. I've done that a few times, and alright, so we got the tank water changes complete. I did add some sand as well. There's some of the live sand that has water and everything. Did that just like I said earlier, when you use a siphon it does suck out some of the sand. It was already starting to run low, so I added some. got the water cleared up. I do use a product here. You can use some polyester filter fiber. This one's just for fish. Or you go to your local Walmart, anywhere like that that sells this. Pretty much the same thing, but at a cheaper price. I do use both of those. Alright, so the water's pretty much crystal clear. I try to get my fish to look like they're floating in there. Got a little bit of bubbles going on. Everything's refiltering. So for the last part, I'm going to go ahead and put my complete trace in there. Add some of the minerals back in that I did take out. This, again, I don't use too much. We're just going to put in enough for 40 gallons pretty much. Yep. So I did 10 mLs, 5 does 10, so it'd be 20 right there, so 40 is where I get that. And then the stability. So again, like I said, this stuff goes a long way. One cat full does 10 US gallons, which is 5 ml. So with this, I don't like to use too much of it. Sometimes it does set off your parameters because it is bacteria. It's beneficial, but it is bacteria. So put one cat full in there of that. Then with this, I don't like putting it straight in there. I usually get a cup of water, tank water, mix it in, let it sit. It gets pretty cloudy. The amount that I want to use, it'll cloud up the tank for just a little bit. We're not going to do that right now. But once it settles down, it does bring up the pH. I like doing it little by little. So that way I don't shock any of the fish or the corals. You don't want to go from a 7.8 straight to 8.3. Pretty dramatic raise in your pH levels. So other than that, I also checked my tank's water. My handy dandy portable parameters here. So I use that. I take a couple drips of my salt water, test it, and check. So I stay around a 1.026 to 1.025 is the parameters I like to keep my tank around. That's one thing with the bucket. You always want to check your buckets, make sure that you have the correct amount of salinity in your tank. And if you are off by a little bit, just check each bucket. If one's a little bit higher than the other, then it should equal out each other. And that's what I do. Always double check just to make sure nothing's too off. And if so, guess what? I'm just going to have to start over with doing a water change. Other than that, I'm Hunter. Thank you for watching this, and you have a good afternoon. Alright, so this is the tank here that we just did a water change on. So I have the clownfish, as I stated earlier. We have the two false oscularis, regular clownfish, and I do have my black clownfish right there. I have a damsel, I have a coral beauty that's trying to hide right now. I also have a snowflake eel in there. He's hiding underneath the rock to your left. So he's hiding down in there underneath the rock. Also have our bubble tip anemone. So we have anemones in here, some corals, also have some zoanthids down there. And then I have a shark egg right here. This is my bamboo shark egg. I do know that it is that it's not going to fit in this 75 gallon. I do have a 180, and eventually, again, it's not going to fit in that one fully grown, and it's going to have to be upgraded to a 300 gallon or plus. That's what we're working on there. But if you want to see more content like this and possibly updates on the shark egg and its growth rate, I've had it for about 3 weeks. Just like, subscribe, and you'll be notified on the next video of an update on the shark egg. If you would like to see more of that type of content, please let me know down in the comments below. Thank you.